Kia ora tātou, I'm Mandy Preston. Just before I turned 60, I had a near-death experience. I was at a friend's birthday function at the Southern Cross Hotel in Wellington, sipping on a glass of bubbly. I started coughing just as we were starting to sing Happy Birthday. I quickly left the room so that my coughing didn't drown everybody out. Suddenly, I experienced a sensation of my throat completely closing over, like ranch slider doors slamming shut. I couldn't speak and I couldn't breathe. I leaned against a wall. Everything was dim, and I felt as though I was inside a diving bell. Time seemed to pass very slowly, and I felt calm and very peaceful. I didn't feel afraid. I thought about my daughters and how well they were doing in their lives, and about my partner, who was just in the other room. And I saw images of myself as a child, and I experienced some real clarity about how momentary we are as people. I vaguely wondered if there was anything I could do to help myself. Then I remembered that I had a Ventolin inhaler in my pocket, which I carry because I'm an asthmatic. And I thought maybe if I fired a whole lot of Ventolin into the back of my throat, that might open up my airway. So I did that, and I experienced a high-pitched squealing sound inside of myself as the air came back and I began to breathe again. I was told that I was pale and that my lips were blue. After I'd stopped gasping, the worried people around me took me to my partner, who had no idea that I hadn't just been in the loo for a while. I found out from the hospital later that I had some kind of allergic reaction to something, and that the action I had taken meant that I'd saved my own life. So not everyone gets a chance to do that, so I was really lucky. So having that experience and then turning 60 was an impetus for me to really think about my life. I realised that I had experienced and survived many other near-death experiences that hadn't taken place in public. I was in a violent relationship for 17 years with the father of my children. I was 19 when I got married back in 1971, totally naive and from a sheltered and loving family. In those days, I was a student nurse. Social expectations at that time meant that a nurse's worst fear was that she would be left on the shelf. So marriage was something to aspire to. And I had a large wedding arranged by my mother, and there was a write-up about it in the paper. I was so hopeful for the future and believed that my life as a married woman would be the beginning of a fairy tale existence. The extreme violence began on my wedding night, surprisingly enough, which I understand now is not an uncommon time for it to begin. I was shocked. I had no idea what to do. There were lots of wedding presents everywhere. I had no words to describe what had happened. What words could I have used? And over the years, the violence continued. It included all sorts of stuff like throwing furniture and food, smashing TVs, threatening me with an axe and a knife, throttling and choking, driving dangerously, and sexual violence. But I told no one about it, not even my family, friends, or my work colleagues. But eventually, after a series of violent and frightening events, one of my daughters, who was 7 at the time, said, "Mum, we have to leave." And somehow her saying that gave me the strength to leave and never go back. As soon as I left, I started to see the colour of the sky and the grass and the flowers and other beautiful things around me. I had been so disconnected and afraid that I hadn't even noticed what was going on. When I think back now, I know I was lucky to survive. And I'm appalled and saddened that today, even though there's so much more discussion about this issue, statistics confirm that violence against women in New Zealand is increasing and that many women are killed every year. So today, at the age of 64, with the good old gold card rising on the horizon, I celebrate being alive, being happy, and counting the good things. I'm in a loving relationship with my long-term partner, Sue, who I can hear giggling. I have amazing daughters and grandchildren and some great friendships with people who have similar values in politics to me. I enjoy living simply and giving freely and generously of my skills and knowledge to make a difference in other people's lives. I'm passionate about music, and I love to sing in Wellington's queer choir, the Glamophones. Being in my 60s means that I don't have to adhere to the social prescriptions that existed for women in the 1970s on how we had to live our lives. I can choose for myself, and I do. I do what I want. Thank you.